Hello, my name's Christine Rue and I'm the Art Gallery and Museums Manager with Aberdeen City Council.
And I'm Helen Fothergill. I'm Head of Collections for Aberdeen Art Gallery and Museums, part of Aberdeen City Council as well.
I'm Lyndsey Bowditch. I'm one of the directors of Studioarc, the exhibition designers on the project.
And my name's Thomas Hamilton, and I work for Hoskins Architects, and I was one of the architects who worked on the Aberdeen Art Gallery and Museums project.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask everybody in the panel, what is the one key thing or things that you have learnt during this project? And it may be about yourself, or it might be about the world of art, or it might be about the project itself. And I'm going to start off with Christine.
Thanks, Helen. The thing I've learned is I can conquer my fear of heights. Early on, whilst the building was being constructed, I was able to see round the building on a regular basis, as you've already mentioned, Helen. And part of that visit round involved early doors going up a really, really tall scaffold tower, with which I was okay. This was right in the sculpture court, which actually is the space on the image behind me. But the last section of it was a really steep ladder and, up onto a crash deck, which was the same height as the ceiling, the original ceiling of the building. And I wanted to go up there and I wanted to see what it was like. So I had to learn to overcome my fear of heights to go up that ladder to see it. And then as the new second floor was built, we were then able to go up the building on scaffold towers and ladders and walk around the perimeter at the kind of the ceiling height, I suppose, of the original building. The parapet across the front that you see where the pink granite is. And then as the building rose in height, we finally were able to go up right on the very top of the roof whilst it was being finally constructed. So that experience, though, gave me the most amazing views across the city of Aberdeen and reinforced for me just how much the gallery sits in an amazing civic space in the heart of the city, and also reaches out to the people who live and work and visit the city.
Thanks, Christine. I have to say that the key things that I've ended up learning throughout the project is how to speak technical language, and actually how to try and translate that for the rest of the museums and galleries team. So I ended up being one of the points of a funnel between the architectural team, the exhibition design team, and the rest of our internal staff team. And so I had to learn what slappings were. I never heard of those apart from actually hitting people, but apparently there are openings in walls that create doorways. I had to learn language to talk to and ask questions of mechanical and electrical engineers. I had to learn how to read and interpret architectural plans and reverse ceiling plans, which were really exciting. Things like electrical wiring plans in galleries to work out which sockets were in the right place and had we got enough power and data in different places. And then when we started to look at the interpretation, learning all about the different interpretation techniques, but also some of the information that I had to absorb about digital interactives and things like that, and then actually just try and guide the internal staff team to being confident enough to feed into some of the decision making. So I might have gone one day to ask them about what colour blinds we need in certain rooms, but as part of that we needed to consider the UV transmittance of those blinds. But because we had to decide on that, we had to think about the blackout quality and the UV filters on the glass itself. So all of this information had to be absorbed so that I could just simply go and say, which one do you like? Do you like the cream or do you like the grey? You know, it was just a whole new set of language skills for me, I think. And I'm hoping that I understand better now. But I have no fear in stupid questions. And that was, you know, very much my modus operandi in quite high level technical meetings. Sometimes I would tend to stop people and say, I'm sorry, you're using acronyms or you're using abbreviations and I don't understand what you're saying, and just try and get that explanation each time, because I often had that job of then translating that to the rest of the team who hadn't had the ability to ask those stupid questions. So I'm going to hand over to Lyndsey.
Oh, I learned so many things. I learned about Bill Gibb and what an amazing fashion designer he was. I learned how you fire a raku pot. I learned how to make an etching like James McVeigh, and these were all things that we then developed interactives and put into the gallery. But I think for me, you know, as a designer working on lots and lots of different projects with different clients, I think Aberdeen is a really special one. And I think for me, it's that sense that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, that together there was a sort of phenomenal amount that was achieved by really a relatively small tight team, all working together. And I think that for me was the sort of that whole collaborative process, having the shared vision that we talked about, and just keeping all of that together all the way through the project. For me now, it feels like Aberdeen Art Gallery has a personality. It has a voice. It's not an abstract concept anymore. It's this confident, friendly, welcoming place, and it's different. I mean, I think that has been the big achievement of it, and I think that sense that it is a place for everyone has materialized, and I think I've learned a lot from being part of the team and contributing in a small way to that.
Thank you, Lyndsey. Thomas.
Yeah, I think I was echo. I have learned a lot through working on Aberdeen. I think there's a couple of things a couple of takeaways actually for me, and it is coloured slightly by my experience of the early days and the late days of the project, if you like. The first one I think is a kind of the beauty of materials, and actually the gallery offered up the first time we went to the gallery, offered itself up in the in the centre court, the beautiful Korean marbles and all the different samples and the columns in that space, the marble floor, the checkerboard marble floor, the Panathinaike frieze. So this kind of like beautiful material quality to the gallery, and then how you might go about responding to that as an architect. And actually, there's a tendency sometimes to want to reinvent something or do something new. But even for me, like the front range, which there was so much work done to make and understand why we needed to remove the stair there and create this one large space. But actually, the simple move of just taking the same floor pattern that's in the central core into that space, and that being that's quite a simple thing to do. Just say, can we do the same here as what's in there? And that it kind of makes the building at the same time new, but actually links it into the old as well in a sort of seamless way. And I think that's one of the things that I think together we did that in so many places in the gallery. We took the terrazzo from around the centre court and put that at the upper level in the memorial court or in Gallery 8. So there's that kind of respect for the original building, and actually sometimes not being sort of respectful enough of it to say, let's just do the same thing. And I think for me that was something that I think for me as an architect, to see it now realised, and realise for me that that's quite a lovely thing, is a you know, a real experience, and something I take away, you know, and apply hopefully in other places, but never again like in Aberdeen, because it's a building of these, you know, quality materials. So that's a takeaway for me, actually. So.
Actually, that's just reminded me. That I've learned is that when you're undertaking investigations in the building and doing multiple test pits around the building, you are guaranteed to miss the human remains. But you know, we must have done dozens and dozens of test pits, and you assume that means that there's nothing to be found. And of course, the first thing that we did when we started to do some of the demolition work was actually find lots of you know, skeletons under the ground level. So that's something that I've learned, is that you know, whilst test pits and investigations are great, you can't always trust them. Has anybody else got some really random things?
I have got something, actually. I remember it used to, and I'm not sure it's a key thing I've learned, but it's something that I remember every time that during the build construction, and actually since as a visitor, is that it's a surprise you have when you're on what used to be the top floor and the first floor, and there's the complete experience of it being the top floor of the gallery, and then you realise there's another floor on top. There's kind of like, oh, it's a mind, one of those ones that sort of flips your mind as you go to the top floor, and you realise this isn't the top, this is not the top floor, there's another floor above. So I quite enjoy that little surprise every time.
I think the other thing for me is, you know, I've never made any bones about the fact that my background isn't in art curation. My job here in Aberdeen is to look after the entirety of the art and history collections, but my background is actually in natural history and geology in museums originally. And so actually for me, I've learned an immense amount about art and art history and art appreciation. And actually, you know, some of the artworks that I've had the privilege of managing and bringing back into the gallery, and actually writing labels about and researching, you know, it's been amazing. And I also had the you know, the great job of proofreading virtually everything that's on display. Some things have slipped through, I hasten to add. There'll always be little mistakes that we find. You know, I'm hoping that nobody has found them, but we did find a number really early doors. But you know, I've actually read everything in the gallery. I can't necessarily remember everything that I've read, but I have read everything. And so the amount of new information that I've been able to absorb about the collection, I would never have that opportunity again. I mean, it was like a blank slate, and it's been absolutely wonderful looking at the collection in that way.
Yeah, I quite like to echo that, actually. The opportunity to experience the collection. I mean, that is a key thing I've learned, is like how amazing the collection is at Aberdeen, you know, and a project which takes you somewhere necessarily you might not have gone so often or at all, and you get to learn those things about it. And for me, that's key. The collection is the key here, really. You know, as much as it's a beautiful building, it was a beautiful building, it's a collection that makes the you know, makes it a special place.